All right, I'm going to call the school committee meeting of January 17th, 2018 to order. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like a motion to add an item to the agenda for executive session in regard to negotiation strategy with collective bargaining units, Unit A, Unit B, and in regard to in respect to litigation from which we will not reconvene to open session. Can I have a motion to add that to the agenda, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second? So a motion by Nicole, a second by Chris. Any discussion? Hearing none. Nicole?
Yes.
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 And yes, so that item will be added to the agenda at the end of the meeting. With that, we will move then to our public hearing. I will need a motion to open the public hearing on the FY19 budget. Once we have concluded the hearing, then I will need a motion and a vote to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing to discuss the Mashpee Public Schools FY19 budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Jeff and a second by Chris to open the public hearing in regard to the Mashpee Public School FY19 budget. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 And yes, unanimous. I hereby declare the public hearing open. And I will turn the floor.
Welcome, public.
Thank you. Where should we start?
I will turn the floor over to our business manager, Paul Funk.
Well, we have a FY19 budget after going through some meetings to get it to where the town feels that they can support the schools. It is a 2.01 budget, just slightly over 2%. One of the things that the budget does, it keeps all of the services to the students intact. No user fees, as I repeat every year, no user fees, no bus fees, no athletic fees, no play fees, music fees. So Mashpee is in a field of their own in that sense. The total budget is total appropriated budget is $21,289,520. It is an increase from the FY18 budget of $419,137. The total budget is $21,739,520, and it's being offset by $450,000 of school choice money. So we are now currently going to be using school choice money to offset our operating budget. In the past, we have used school choice money to enhance programs, such as the Clear Touches. We have upgraded our infrastructure as far as technology goes. For the most part, every child, I believe, from 3 to 12 has a Chromebook, and in the K2 or pre-K to 2, I think it's 1 to 3?
1 to 2.
1 to 2, so we have increased, that was increased, by the way, this year. It was 1 to 3, we were able to go 1 to 2. So we do have a lot to be thankful for. I mean, we've moved on technology and so forth. There are two additional positions in this budget. One is a BCBA, and that position is a sped position. And some of the funding, we did have a private contractor that did this for us, and we are finding that we are getting more and more students, so therefore, we felt that by bringing in a BCBA in-house and reducing the sped expense side of the budget, using some of the expense side of the budget to fund this particular position. We also are going to have a part-time, I'll call it a tech position, that will be repairing some of the Chromebooks and some of the iPads and so forth that are in closets right now, which will help in the rotation of the Chromebooks, so that if one breaks, they can get one right back into action. So I'll entertain any questions in just one moment. If you review the budget, and it is online, you'll notice that the elementary schools have a reduction in their line items. That's basically due to the technology, which is in the technology section of the budget, which was increased this year by $232,900. But you also have to keep remembering, we're offsetting this total budget by $450,000 in choice funds. We also are offsetting this budget in $417,000 worth of circuit breaker funds, which will offset our out-of-district, and that's within the budget. And I think that's, and one other offset is athletics revenues, and we're in arrears again, 25,000, so the athletic budget was offset by 25,000. The athletic budget is down, the athletic expenses are down about $14,771. The reason for that is the Collaborative, which is our primary transportation company, has entered into a contract and is able to do the athletic runs less expensive than a private company. We also, a year and a half ago, purchased a 12-passenger van, which we use for the smaller teams, i.e. the golf team, JV basketball team, so tennis team. So that has helped us save some revenue on the transportation side. That van is also used to transport students from the high school to the elementary schools to work with children. So it really, really has helped expand our high school students and coming down to the elementary schools. At this time, I will entertain any questions from the public and from the school committee.
Nicole?
I just thought maybe the public, you might want to explain what BCBA means.
Do you want me to handle it?
I might toss that over to the assistant superintendent for the real
They understand
technical.
what that position
Yeah,
is.
real
Yeah,
technical.
So BCBA stands for Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and it's a licensure that allows an individual to analyze behavior and the function of behavior, and then support writing behavior intervention plans that will allow us to increase the behaviors we're looking for and decrease the ones we're not. How's that? That's what a BCBA does. Do you want to know why we need one?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Okay, so currently we contract with Beacon Services to provide any BCBA services that are on IEPs. Beacon Services, at the end of FY18, will no longer contract with us. Not because we did anything wrong, they love us, but they're not going to work with schools anymore. So in order to meet the IEPs that have BCBA services on them, we need to have our own person. There's no one else with whom we can contract.
Perfect, thank you.
And just keep in mind that when we put these positions in, it's not like, we spent 10 minutes discussing this. This was a long discussion. And not being the expert in the BCBA, but after, the discussions that we have, this prevents a lot of students from going out of district. It keeps them in district, which keeps our costs down.
Paul, do you want to talk about the big numbers here, which obviously are total salaries, which now are well over 80% of our budget, and also talk a little bit more in regard to the drivers behind the technology, curriculum instruction and technology increase year over year.
Sure. The total increase in the budget, as far as salaries, are 3.56. Now, remember, I told you there were 2 new positions in there. Prior to the 2 new positions going in there, it was 3.3%. So there is an increase, but I was able to decrease on the expense side some of that. So I was able to come up with bringing that down. The thing to keep in mind also is that in that salary, the 3.56, I believe next year's, and I do not have it with me, is it 2% or 2.25? So it's a 2.25% increase to all personnel, and there are steps involved in that, and that brought it up to the 3.3, and then the 2 additional positions. We also have to take, in the salary side, we have to make sure that we cover any, what we call lane changes, people getting master's degrees, or any obligations that might come in the, in FY19. Retirement incentives, sick day buybacks, and so forth. So we've projected that. I believe that 3.56, I know it's over, a little over 80%, but in this particular type budget where you don't have the custodial and the maintenance in here, it's going to be a little bit higher than if we did have it. So usually it's between 80 and 85%. But with a 2%, we're holding really close on the expense side. What was the second part of the question?
In regard to
Oh, the technology.
and the big increase there.
I'm sorry?
The big increase for
The big
technology.
Oh, the big, right. The big increase for technology was, the last few years, we had zeroed out technology on the expense side. Not on the salary side, we kept that in there. But on the expense side, we zeroed out the technology and would charge any technology to the choice account. Now what we're going to be doing is we're still going to be charging to the choice account, but it's going to be part of that offset. So we have put back in the budget what we expect to spend on curriculum, technology, and instruction, but we're offsetting it again, showing it in the budget, offsetting it by the $450,000. That's part of it.
So I know we did not restate FY18 here, so for comparative purposes, can you give us a sense of how much the period over period increase is on a comparable basis? So you've included the technology in the
Correct.
FY19 budget. You've
Correct.
not included it in the FY18 budget.
Mhm.
If I included it back into the FY18 budget, how
Mhm.
much did 19 over 18 increase?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I wouldn't want to,
Okay.
because I'd have to pull out, there are other things that we use choice money for that were in technology. Majority of it was technology, but there was some things that I would have to pull out of there.
Okay.
But I'll get back to you.
if you could have that
Yep.
for the next meeting.
Absolutely.
May I make a comment, or are you done?
Yep.
If you're not,
No, I am.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was actually a really good segue, because you were talking about the 3.56% increase for salaries
Yes,
as compared to the budget increase, total overall budget increase of 2.01.
correct.
So of course, that's my concern. And, you know,
It's my concern
how much,
also,
when is that rock gonna be out of blood, you know? And,
very shortly.
Yeah,
And
And-
I've expressed that
yeah.
with the town manager, and I've brought it up here too, many
Yeah.
times, that we're gonna hit a wall
Yeah.
somewhere very soon.
Just, you know, just real quick, and it's available to anyone who wants to see it, but, you know, just Casey Coombs instructional expenses itself is almost 8% decrease. You
Right,
know, almost
But-
4% for Quashnet.
right.
I mean, I don't know how much more you can decrease expenses to catch up with
I
a
can't-
3.56% increase in
Right.
salary line item. You made a comment about that we're gonna maintain services. Do you consider this a level service budget? And I'm trying to
No,
put you on the spot.
no, I know it.
Yeah,
I know you're not trying to play stump the businessman.
No, I'm not.
No, okay. So, no, I don't. No, I don't. I couldn't, in good faith, say that. It's like, the FY19 budget gets opened in July 1st,
Mhm.
and it's like we're playing the game.
Yeah,
We're
understand.
moving the money.
I mean, we're really shrinking and shrinking any kind of flexibility we have in the budget for any kind of changes or something that happens 2 years from now.
No. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. In other words, it's, when I put my original budget together, it was one of these, trying to keep it level service as best as possible,
Mhm.
and trying to develop a budget that the town is going to be okay with. We didn't get that. Is this a level service? We're doing our best with what we got, that's all.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm just, just point of comparison, the level
Yeah,
service
no,
budget that we
no.
discussed in the working
No,
group was
no.
almost 6%.
And remember, the school committee asked, first of all, let's just go back to FY18, when we got a .14 increase, gave 2.25% raises, and tried to keep everything running, as the service, when I say we're not losing services, we're doing everything possible to give the students. Could we give them more? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So now you're starting off with a $425,000 reduction in the FY18 budget. Now you're moving into the FY19 budget, and I believe that we're about 6% behind.
Yeah,
But I think that was the figure.
almost
we had.
exactly
Yeah,
6%,
yeah,
we figured out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's all I got, thank you.
okay.
Paul.
I would just like to follow up your question, Jeff, and direct that to the superintendent. So, Jeff, same question in regard to, do you consider this a level service budget?
So what I did actually want to add to that conversation was, when I think about our students, they are coming to us having faced and dealing with many more challenges than most of us can imagine. So it's really hard to predict how we can best meet their needs. So I would say we will be struggling as we move forward because of what I've seen in the last 5 years compared to 20 years ago, in terms of being able to meet the needs of students so that they can find success, primarily academically, but then also we have social, emotional, behavioral, that we want them to be successful. And it takes a lot of teacher training, it takes sometimes extra personnel. There are a lot of components to it that I'm not sure this budget will support, but we have a staff who always seems to be willing to go above and beyond to try to make things work, and they're very student-centered, so we always find a way to make it work, but it is becoming more and more of a challenge. And it's basically because of the changing population that is sitting in our desks.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Just to go back, the past couple of years, we've spent a lot of money on technology, and I will get that figure for you. But this is going to, the way I looked at it is, that took a burden off the town, which now that we're using the money, the choice money, to actually fund our operating budget, we won't be able to do those things, and we'll be going to the town for replacement of Chromebooks, or the next generation Chromebooks, or whatever it might be coming down. So, you know, that's going to be the next thing. You know, the auditorium needs, at the high school, needs updating. And that, you know, that's maybe $250,000. I don't want to scare people, but, you know, sound, light, whatever. And that could be $250,000 or $200,000 item. I can't do that anymore with the choice money. Now we're going back to the town and capital improvement group and asking them to fund that for us. So I just want the committee to understand that we're using, that this is day-to-day money now.
Chris, do you have any questions at this point?
No, I think actually, between you and Jeff especially, answered pretty much any question I would have had, so
Thank you.
thanks for asking.
Before we get
Yep.
beyond page one, it would probably be helpful to explain to our audience in regard to school choice and the ramifications. So you've indicated that we're taking 450,000. How much, we have a little, we're projecting that we may
Thank you
have a
very
little
much.
left. How much is that reserve or cushion that we have?
The cushion, it's probably, a cushion of, well, we projected a cushion of $50,000. That was the original cushion. We expected to have 100 students this year, and I think we're at maybe 95.
We have 95, but we currently have 4 pending.
So there's 4 pending, so, but, you know, if we have 95 and those 5 that I was banking on, that's why we didn't go right down to the 500,000. We kind of backed off 50,000 as our cushion. If those 5 students never started, that's 25,000 that I took off the 50. And when the pending ones, if there's 4 pending that are coming in, it's prorated. It's not 5,000 at this time. If more leave, so I think the 450,000 was a good number. I didn't, you know, in the cushion of 50,000, I think we'll be okay. So.
So is any of the school choice funds being used to offset salaries at this point?
It's a good question. Depends on how the answer is no.
The answer is no.
In this budget, it's not, I don't plan to offset.
All right.
It's just, and let me explain something. Because it's an offset at the bottom of the page, and it's just for convenience, setting up the salaries without using choice money. It's for convenience, basically. Now you have to look at the 450,000 as offsetting. You can say that 450 is offsetting salaries. You can say it's offsetting expenses. It's just, salaries are just convenient if I don't have to touch them. So, and plus, you know, if for some reason, and I use the expenses, if for some reason, all of a sudden, you know, the high school's budget, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, and I'm not going to have Mr. Bellistracci calling me first thing tomorrow morning, but if they do not expend, if they'll expend all of their expenses that are in the budget, and then we will move over to the choice, because the choice can be carried over from one year to the next, where the actual budgets cannot.
So is your projection, and I know Jeff, your working group had looked at this, is your projection that when we get to FY '20, there will be 0 choice funds available? Because we will not have enough with the contractual salary increases that are coming through, that we're already committed to, without doing a layoff. I'm assuming that our contractual salaries will increase another 3.5%, give or take.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
that's a pretty good figure, maybe
And-
even more.
And therefore, our total expenses will increase 4% in total before the offset.
Mhm.
And right now, we have less than 50,000 of cushion.
Correct.
So I think, Jeff, back to your earlier comment, we're here.
Right,
This
right.
is it.
The working committee is well aware
Yeah.
that, of where we are, and we've made the town side well aware. I said that right, didn't I? True, okay. Aye.
I want to make sure the public
Yeah.
is well aware
Yeah.
of.
I mean, the big point is the school choice offset year over year is gonna make less and less of an impact on the bottom line. It's
That's
just,
not even going to cover it.
yeah, I mean, it's not covering anything now. You know, this is a non-level service budget that we offset by school choice to bring the percentages down to an acceptable level for the town. Next year, that offset of $450,000 may not offset enough to become an
Right,
acceptable
right,
level. for
and
the
I think
town.
that's where you're heading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my point is, if you take every penny next year, it's still not going to be enough.
Oh, no,
Right.
No,
I mean,
no,
the-
oh, yeah.
Yeah, the gap is ever widening.
That's,
Yeah, and-
that's, I guess, the
And-
point. And I know, from a town side, we're trying to put off doing an override. I'm not sure what the town manager and board of selectmen's solution is to this.
Well, I think there, what I hear when we go for budget meetings and so forth, you hear a lot of ifs. If the Mashpee Common expands, if this happens, and if that happens, there may be more revenue. But on the other side, there are other things that if they don't get a debt exclusion for the technical high school, he has to, the town manager, and I'm not, the town manager has to be aware that he's still on the hook for that money. So there's those things that, so you have, the town's trying to balance everything. Maybe if they get the debt exclusion for the technical high school, that's going to open up maybe more funds for next year that they were holding back on until they decided, and I believe that election is going to be in May. I'm not sure, but.
I think the pound home point is that this is not a sustainable budget strategy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other message to families of Mashpee students is that we requested a little over 4% increase this year for a level services budget.
Correct.
The town gave us 2. We used school choice funds to make up the other 2%. And we will not have enhancements, pilot programs, additions, that emergency fund that we've been carrying. So I think this is it. And, I just want everyone to know that this, as we've all want to make sure everybody's paying attention, we can't do this again next year. It won't be enough. That means we're cutting services. And effectively, we are offsetting salaries right now with choice funds because we're making up that deficit. When I was at the collaborative meeting last week, I reached out to other school districts to find out if their choice funds are being used to offset their budget. And Sandwich made a very pointed comment that they have been using their choice funds to cover teacher salaries, and they are trying to get off of that because it's so precarious for them. And they have about 130 choice kids coming in and about 125 going out. So a similar position, although slightly higher numbers. And so they are using it, but when they're trying to figure this out, and I think it's just everyone that walks into these muddy waters tries to find their way back out again because it's not a good solution. So, but thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Paul, do you want to go through, and if there's any questions on any of the detail? This is the opportunity for committee members, and if there's anything you want to point out to the committees, you go thumb through this.
Unless you have questions.
Would you like me, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to go through, maybe I can answer some of the questions? I can do it rather quickly. I'll take it school by school, and I'll kind of pick out the ones that had the biggest decreases. If you turn to page 1, which is the Coombs School instructional equipment, and I can tell you kind of what the principal brought to me, and I have my little notes here. It may take me a few minutes. These were requests for anything from small tables to easels to classroom kits, mini drones, magnetic whiteboards, and Chrome cards with Chromebooks. We did do all of those. Some of them we were able to fund out of last year's budget. Some of all the STEM materials we were able to fund, like the kidney reading tables, the teacher small reading tables, preschool account, which is a revenue account that the 3-year-olds that come into our schools, we were able to fund it from that revolving account. Another one on that was, let's see, general supplies only went down. Oh, the other one was big testing and assessment. So on the testing and assessment, the testing and assessment, when the principal came in, Mr. LaBelle came in, he was Dibbles and Peely benchmarking assessment tools for pre-K to 2. That we left on the budget line for testing and assessment. But things like STAR assessment, that was, I took that district-wide. So because it's used by not only the Coombs School, but it's also used by the Quashnet. The TS Goal, which is a pre-K assessment, that I took out of the pre-K account again. That was a $1,000 item. The STAR assessment was $4,000. That we did district-wide. That'll come out of the technology. Kindergarten screening tool, which was left in. So you can see that I looked for other alternatives to fund these particular accounts. So that one was, and the other account was 16%. That wasn't too bad.
So on Quashnet, Paul,
Well, let me just get
I'm sorry.
through, I'm just looking for this one account.
Okay.
It should be. Oh, here it is here. You'll notice that Coombs Other, we had put a lot of money into that. If you look back at the expenditures in 2007, $8,282.61. The budget for 18 was 2,428, because a lot of that, and you know, it's only down $400, even though it looks like it's down 16%. It's only a $400 reduction, and that is that's the Falcon Station, library bag incentives, publications, science materials, and newsletters. And
Mr. Chair, can I just interrupt for a quick second? Sorry. The public hearing, do we go through line by line the budget? Because that's
No.
not been my
No.
experience, so I just wanted to clarify that a little bit.
No,
Okay.
we don't. And, you know, what I asked was if there were items that he wanted to highlight. So we don't need to go into that level,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
Sorry,
Good.
I didn't mean to.
I'm sorry.
No,
I just-
that's-
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I didn't
was-
think we were gonna ever, well, we kinda did this already, like, for 3 meetings, I feel like,
Yeah.
right? Okay, sorry, thank you.
All right, now I'll take questions.
Sorry, Mr. Funk, I did not mean
No,
to.
no,
So,
none taken.
go ahead, Patty.
I was just gonna say, as another message to the public and what we had put in the Mashpee Enterprise on January 5th, anyone who would like to come in and sit down specifically and discuss any questions that they have on our FY19 budget, they are more than welcome to do that with myself or Mr. Funk as well. And we also made sure that every family connected with the Mashpee schools received not only the budget summary in case they don't get the Mashpee Enterprise, and also the detailed summary. So hopefully people have had an opportunity to look through, and anything that they have a question, I really do encourage everyone to come in and meet with us one-on-one or small group, or we can come to them.
Great.
I think I think the hard thing as a member of the public to see, and that's what was my question when I directed it to Paul earlier, was, you know, I think what they want to know is, are there real reductions? You know, there are minuses and percent decreases in this budget, and it's really accounting wizardry by Paul to allow the offset of the school choice funds to not come out of the salary side of the house. So I think, I guess in general, you know, we're trying to provide level services. Are there any real reductions? And I think you sort of hit on those in your opening remarks, you know.
Right.
We got a little bit of savings from special ed, but we're hiring this other person, you know. We saved some athletic dollars on
Transportation,
transportation
yeah.
costs. But in truth, we're trying to hold the line, and I don't see any reductions in services reflected here. These reductions are merely accounting balance sheet.
Yeah, as I said, when we open up the game, it's gonna be the movement of the money. But I wanna, you know, when I say there's no reduction in services, I always look at what we put in the classrooms. Direct services to kids. I call it, this is my direct services to kids. That there are teachers, we did not reduce any teachers in any of the schools. I talked about the BCBA, and that was an easy sell for me, because I know what that's going to save us down the road. So, you know, when I say, did we cut services? Yes, of course we cut services. You can't do it with 2%, you know. And the 450,000, that's 2% right there. Because if you look at the very last page, and I kind of left it in here, possibly by mistake, but, you know, just to give you, I can probably make myself look good tonight. If you go to page 21 of the FY19 budget, you're going to see that if we didn't use that $450,000 to offset this budget, we would need a 4.16 increase. And that still has those cuts in there. So it's not like, oh, wow, you know, you need a 4.16. No, we needed that maybe 4.5 or a little more.
All right. In that vein, is there anything else that you want to point out to the committee at this point, Paul?
Not really, but
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, we're going to hit the road, hit the wall pretty soon,
All right.
I think next year.
And I will give each committee member a last opportunity if you have additional questions.
I'm good, thank you.
Wouldn't have any questions, but thank you, Paul, for what you do.
Thank you.
All right.
As unhappy as I am.
Huh?
As unhappy as I am,
Yeah, I
you
am.
make me happy as I
it's-
can be.
You know, don't shoot the messenger, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so, but, you know, it's all about kids
Well, I
and
appreciate
getting
it.
services to them.
Sheesh. All right. Hearing no additional questions, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion by
Second.
Nicole and a second by Jeff
Must be because I'm sitting in George's seat.
to close the public hearing on the FY19 Mashpee school budget. Well, we're going to close the meeting, and then I can talk about the next steps. Either one. Yeah. I have to close the public hearing. Okay. Okay, so before you run off, I'm looking for a vote on the motion
Oh, yeah.
to
I
close
was
the
about
public
voting.
hearing.
You're
Nicole,
steering it wrong.
Yes.
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 and yes,
Thanks.
unanimous.
Yeah.
I declare that the public hearing is now closed at 7:14.
Yeah, we're gonna have to vote on this budget.
I thought we were voting.
Did you-
No, we're
Next
voting in
meeting.
February.
He's gonna cover.
That's right.
Yeah,
All right, I'm all set, go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah.
if Nicole's
Yeah.
going to be back in a second or not. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, for everyone's edification, so at the school committee's next meeting on February 7th, we will be taking a formal vote in regard to accepting, or whether to accept this budget that we have just covered in the public hearing, and present that to the town manager as the school committee's to FY19 budget appropriation request. All right? And I don't have the agenda, but I would assume that that will probably be around 7 o'clock on the 7th, that we will be addressing that agenda item. All right, next item on the agenda is in regard, well, we have no public comment, is approval of minutes for December 20th, 2017. They're in your packet, pages 23 through 25. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at those?
Yes.
Do you want to wait for Nicole to get back?
I do want to wait for Nicole to come back. So I'm going to move on, and I really need Nicole for the next item, which is school choice. So I'm going to skip down to the report of the business administrator. Paul,
Okay.
pages,
Out of the fire,
Starting
back into the
on-
fire.
Yeah, I know it.
Page
This is my
27.
night. I'll be honest with you, tonight, on the budget, on the FY18 budget, there hasn't been that much of a change. So I will be more than happy to entertain any questions.
I have no questions, Mr. Cobb.
But nor do I.
I'll wait till Nicole gets
Nicole.
back.
so
Sorry.
in your absence, we've skipped down a couple agenda items,
Great.
No, they're gonna go back.
which we will go back for, but we are on the report of the business administrator, which
Okay.
is pages 27 through 52 in your packet.
And
Do
I
we
made a
have
comment
any
to that.
questions?
And Chris has no questions either.
Oh, I already, this is just the normal budget
Yeah.
report?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I looked at this as
Yeah,
well.
there wasn't a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I did talk about, you know, at the last administrative meeting, they'll end up spending down their budgets this year. They're not gonna turn back.
All right. If there are no further questions, then we will skip back on our agenda to approval of minutes for December 20th, 2017.
I move to accept the minute, or approve the minutes of December 20th, 2017 as written.
Second?
So, motion by Jeff and a second by Chris in regard to approving the December 20th, 2017 minutes as presented. Hearing no comments, Nicole?
Yes.
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 And yes, unanimously approved. All right, next item then that we skipped over was update on school choice. That's page 26 in your packets. And I believe the superintendent is covering this.
So what you have on that page is a chart that shows our current school choice students by grade level. So we have a total of 95. Remaining approved seats for, that the school committee approved for choice seats for FY18, we have 26, and you can see the grade levels where those are. And then down below are Mashpee residents who attend schools in other towns for the school choice program. And we didn't break that down by grades, but it does show you which towns these children have selected to attend. And like I said earlier, we do have 4 students. This seems to be another little busy time of the year for school choice applications. Not quite sure why that is, but the fact that we chose to leave our school choice open this year, which was different from past years, was really to accommodate our own residents who have housing changes, but these 4 are not that situation. Another town.
No sixth graders? We
We have
can't buy,
one's coming.
one. We're having a hard time finding sixth graders, it looks like.
Well, if you remember, we opened up,
Some
when we
extra
went back and we
spots, yeah.
visited, we wanted to be as generous as we could with options, so
I
put
think
10 in there, I think.
I think that's one of our small classes coming through, I believe is the sixth grade, if I remember correctly. In fifth grade was a larger group, but, okay. We'll keep looking for sixth graders.
So can I ask my fellow committee members what these numbers mean to you in terms of equal incoming to outgoing virtually? Like, what does that say to you as a,
Personally, it says to me that it's a better trend than what we've had in prior years, where we've had more students leaving the district. I would like to have a positive number, but at least we're balanced. You know, equal number coming in roughly to what we're losing for whatever reason. That's kind of how I look at it. You know, the more, the piece that's not here is the number of students that are going to other schools outside of the choice program, such as
Only Sturgis and Cape, and,
program?
I mean, the ones that would affect the town budget would be Sturgis and the Lighthouse, right? Is there another charter school?
No, not that our kids go to.
Right,
I
right,
mean, there's Rising Tide, but I don't think they're there.
okay.
right.
Because I understand we could have people going to Pope John Paul and stuff, but you know, it's
Right.
not a kind of a budgetary talk, but I guess we should still try to pull those people if we could, you know, back to the fold,
I mean,
just for a religious.
it makes me want to look at the students who have chosen to go to other towns. I'd like to know at what grade level did they make that choice?
Hmm.
Have they stuck it out there? Was there a particular interest or program that district offered that they felt they didn't have here? Or was there a situation here that wasn't a good place for them, like really, because a lot of the, not a lot, but several of the applications we get for incoming choice will often refer to, well, a child, you know, it was a bullying environment where they're coming from, or they'll say they like the small class sizes in Mashpee, so, you know, I'm not sure why families, you know, the younger kids, obviously, it's more of a parental decision as you get older, so the high
Mhm.
school kids are probably going to be able to, influence their parents if they want to go elsewhere. We used to have kids who would choose DY because they have a pretty strong track program, but we only have 4 kids there right now. So Falmouth is big in Sandwich. When you gave the Sandwich numbers, it's sort of you're trading kids back and forth.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the way I look at this, and I'm, you know, as you probably already know, I'm kind of trend driven, so it would be interesting to see the trend. I know our trend's going down for the number of students going out, and I know the number of students coming in is always going to depend on the committee and how many seats they release. But I'm kind of the mindset of the field of dreams, you know, if we build it, they will come kind of thing. And they're kind of tied together. These aren't independent, you know, so if we're increasing the reputation and the available technology, the variable alternative career paths, and the great curriculums that we're using to drive people into the Mashpee, we're also going to maintain kids that don't want to leave, you know, I think, you know, personally. So that's how I see these numbers. I think we're like on the cusp of seeing our hard work actually, you know, in numbers quantitatively.
Right, and I think there were more space, you know, I know we don't have any seats at, I don't recommend K anyway, but 1 and 2, we can capture families then that will be able to keep them. And I have said this before, I really like the structure of a 7 through 12 high school because I think it allows us to we're able to offer opportunities for 7th and 8th graders, and then they become part of what I consider that as a community, and so then they see themselves as staying there and fitting in there. So I like that structure is a way to prevent more kids leaving.
And I also, you know, would agree with that, the trend. So I know you see in the solid number here, you don't really see what it's been over the years, but it has gone down. And I think the only couple pieces that I think have been left out that haven't really been talked about is there are certain people that do move into town that might have lived in Sandwich or wherever and decide to keep their kid there. You know, so they move in here and then they school choice their kid where their hometown was. So you have things like that, and then I think Jeff had touched on a little bit with increasing offerings. So I know in particular for Barnstable, they have a volleyball team. We do not offer a volleyball team. So I know a couple people that have gone to Barnstable specifically for that. So I think these are things like, you know, as time goes on and as we get a better budget, you know, we need to look at what offerings are other schools doing that's important to our families and students, and see if we can start offering those, you know, feasibly and responsibly, but seeing what we can do to do that. So that's really how I see it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that was kind of what leapt out of me when I looked at this, that at present we have, it's equal, is that the cost to educate our Mashpee kids, in other words, we're bringing in 95 additional kids that it costs us nothing more to educate, right? We're adding these choice seats and we're allowing them to come in and they stay in these are the kids that are in the system. And then now we're being asked to take that money and instead of, you know, expanding services or offerings or making advancements, we have to use it to make up what the town's not giving us. And so it feels like we're doing everything right that's within our control, and that
So,
it's kind of being, you know, so it's not like if we were in a deficit, then maybe I could sort of see the town saying, well, hey, you know, you're, if that weren't in balance, but it seems like we're kind of getting.
so the risk is the 95 students who are coming in, come through school choice, shows up in the school budget. The 95 kids that are going out don't show up in our budget, show up in the town budget as an outflow.
Actually,
So,
that's not true.
well,
Actually, it comes off the top of the state, the money to the town. So it never is in the town budget. It's not that they lose that money. They never get it.
Well,
It's a decreased revenue stream.
Yeah.
it reduces their revenue. And if that number increases, their revenue decreases
And
even more.
another perfect segue, and then maybe I would love it if next time we talk about this, that we include the charter school numbers in here, because I believe that's 15,000 a pop. Right?
It's the per pupil.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how we're doing with that, and, you know, once again, one of the other risks about the way we're doing this and continuing to trim our services as light as possible, that we do run the hazard, and again, I don't want to use slippery slope logic here, but I mean, we run the hazard of creating an environment now that's going to cause students to want to go to a better district as opposed to stay in Mashpee because we have the services to offer them. Therefore, increasing the amount of 5,000 per pupil coming out for school choice and the 15,000 per pupil going out for charter. It'd be interesting to see that trend, and I hope it's going down. I mean, do you know if it is, or maintaining?
I believe it is for Sturgis, and just a slight highlight at a meeting I was at last week where a parent shared that her daughter, who's in 10th grade, had been on the waiting list for Sturgis and got moved up, so she now was notified that she had a spot, and she begged her parents not to send her. She stayed.
And I know a couple people who did the same thing, and we're creating that environment to do that, and that's the kind of financial incentive and, you know, opportunity that we're providing to the town that's not captured anywhere,
Yeah.
you know,
That's true.
so.
That's okay.
We'll discuss that in the working group.
Group.
All right.
So you're interested in any kind of a trend,
Would.
choice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll also do a little trend on the Sturgis.
That
Yeah.
should be just one of those things that we're tracking, you know, and I think we talked about tracking, how many tuition waivers we end up processing at the end of the year. So we're hoping that also leaving those seats open throughout the year means that we'll have to do less tuition waivers.
Right. That is the number.
And so that was another one that we were gonna track, so it would be good to see those at least a couple times a
Sure.
year, whatever makes sense.
Any other questions on?
No,
I do actually
Oh,
just want
sorry,
to point one last thing out.
Yep.
Not going to try to predict the future here, but I at least want to point out something I observed. So when we talk about school choice, obviously it's not guaranteed money. I mean, we have to, if nobody's school choice is in here, there's no money. If we don't offer it, the future committees don't offer it, there's no money except for the kids that are currently in the system. Well, if you notice, it seems like the class size is getting bigger and bigger over the years. Now, I know we're about 9 years out, 8 years out from, you know, the smaller numbers, but we're starting to offer less and less seats because we have to accommodate for the kids in our own town first. And if you look at kindergarten first, second, third, and, you know, they're getting smaller. So if that trend continues, eventually these school choice funds are going to become smaller and smaller because we can't overload the classrooms. So,
So in the spring, at some point, you'll be looking at recommendations by the principals for
mhm.
available for seats for FY19.
But thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, moving on then, we've covered the business administrator's report, so we'll go to 8.1, school start time discussion. I believe everyone had been asked to think about what information they need in order to be able to reach a decision. One of the things I would like to try to accomplish tonight is to set some dates in regard to being able to have a public hearing, and also would like to set a date for when this committee will bring this item up for a formal yay or nay vote. So, first item was, has everyone had an opportunity to think about what information or additional information that they need at this point in order to be able to arrive at a decision? And have you conveyed that to the superintendent.
Why is everybody looking at me?
Because I assume you have some, I'm good with the public comment right now, so.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I do have a couple of things. So I was trying to get caught up on, as I wasn't a school committee member when you guys took this up last time and was a parent. And I guess when I consider, so you're talking about, we would just schedule a public hearing, a public meeting
Yeah,
on the superintendent's proposal.
on the superintendent's proposal, or if there is a different proposal, yes.
So, I guess my concern is that, I was asking Chris kind of off to the side, whether this was the final, so basically the school start time committee recommended an 8:30 start time for the middle high school, and then it was like
It was a
9:00.
Right, it was a 9:05.
Thanks. Yeah, so, and so then we did this volunteer survey, and at that time, we were offering free before care as part of that proposal. And I remember being in the room over there when somebody said it looked like there were about 240 kids that were going to take it, based on this survey,
Yeah, right,
yeah.
right.
Which was kind of introduced as a way to alert parents to the potential way to stop this school start time change from happening. So I take that with a grain of salt, those numbers, but in any case, so there was, and so I recall you then asked the school committee to consider what you've now submitted as a revised proposal. Right. So why are we simply flipping to the other option? Because before there were a number of options. We had this before care thing. Why aren't we just considering,
Something like that.
or like you note in your proposal that that there's going to be impacts no matter what we do. But how do we know that the impacts of the later start time is not better or worse than what you're currently proposing? Like, I don't think we've evaluated that.
You mean comparing the 7:30
Yeah,
to a 9 o'clock?
right.
We haven't really evaluated that in that sense in terms of getting any kind of parent input and impact on their mornings, afternoons.
Yeah.
And so the point of this conversation is to decide what additional work needs to be done in order to get to that point,
Great.
okay?
Yeah. I just want to make sure I didn't miss some flow of information or something. But yeah, so I think that one of the things in one of the superintendent subcommittees that I'm on in communications and outreach, we're meeting tomorrow.
We are. Is it tomorrow?
Yeah. Tomorrow, Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah.
All day.
It is,
Yeah. And
1 o'clock?
yes, I believe that's correct.
Making sure.
So one of the things that I was going to propose in that meeting is a survey, a Mashpee Public Schools Family Opinion Survey. And I think that as part of that, and what I'm proposing is a sample survey, not a census of the school, although I could be convinced that a census might be great too. But, and I would recommend that we direct a few questions that, what I would love to see is a survey that's either biannual or at some regularity, so that we can track progress on goals related to communication, stakeholder engagement, outreach.
Not to interrupt, but I want to try to keep it to this topic.
Right.
Good points you're making. but let's
So
keep
my
it to
point
this
is that within that survey, we would include several questions about a change to school start times, and put either these as choices, or, ask people to pick their poison, so to speak, whichever they would prefer, so that we clearly understand and have some data on the preferences of families in the district before we're asked to vote on a specific change like this.
So maybe at tomorrow's working group, we could develop the questions we would want on this sort of biannual survey to include a section on school choice.
Allegedly biannual.
Well, yeah, whatever it is, whatever periodicity it is, but, you know, that's our current policy dilemma, so those changes might, you know.
Well, I think, though, boiling it down to this particular topic, you're looking for the superintendent to do a public survey to get feedback from parents in regard to how this would impact them. Is that correct?
Yeah, not specific just to this, but yes, that is what I'm
Well,
asking for.
But related to this topic only,
Yep,
right? There's other things you're looking for, but for this topic,
Patty seems,
Well, no, are you saying you want a narrow survey specific to school choice versus
school start
other,
times.
School
start times,
s-
other than questions about other communication strengths or weaknesses?
so I'm trying to keep it focused on what she's requesting related to this. If you incorporate it in something else, that I think is okay, it achieves the objective. But for her to get additional information and for the committee as a whole, what she's asking for is a public survey be done in regard to impact of this proposal.
Yes.
Okay,
If I may, Don.
yeah.
So, and I think even the broader survey could serve both purposes as well, because if you look at it like, and I don't necessarily 100% know how to achieve this because I don't do surveys, I know that's part of what you do. But asking questions that are indirectly getting responses that would impact which direction we go with school start time could be a way to go too, rather than just calling it the school start time survey and asking which one do you like, or even if you only had one, is this going to work for you? Do you have after school care? That kind of thing. Having a more broad, broader survey asking school like life questions about how many kids are in school, do they do after school programs, and then gathering all that data would kind of tell us which one would work better for Mashpee in the schools. Just by having that data, not necessarily asking black and white, hey, do you like this, do you not like this, is this better for you, is that not better for you?
Because nobody likes change.
Nobody likes change, and those answers are too easy to just dismiss.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you're asking general questions about their school experience, that data can be collaborated into something that would give us a lot more information.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know how to do that. Leave that to you.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Well, I think that's great, that achieves the objective that we're trying to do it here. Expanding it to incorporate other things, I think is fine too.
And so if I continue.
Go for it.
My other thing I have on my list associated with these changes would be the availability of childcare for families, either whether it's before care or I am a user of the Mashpee Town Aftercare, and to my knowledge, there has been a waiting list in that program every year since I've gotten into it. And I'm the first one in the door at the beginning of the year to sign my kids up because I don't want to not have a seat because my husband and I both work. So those kinds of things, I think we need to understand, what would be available to families if we alter times and how that would impact childcare. It's not to say that we don't have to do it, but I think we just need to understand what we're getting ourselves into. The last thing was, I know that you guys took a look at busing last year and kind of in anticipation of potentially changing times. And so, recently the whole city of Boston, went to later start times, and they hired a guy, this group of people from MIT to model their bus routes so they could gain efficiencies, and the collaborative is in touch with those very same people because so many new districts are coming online to use collaborative busing. And so they have talked about allowing us to have our bus routes looked at if we'd like.
Which we did last year.
Yeah.
I rode every bus.
Yeah, well, I know, but as part of this modeling process, that might result in some insights that we don't currently have. So that's something that is in the works with the collaborative, but I think they're just starting to talk to DY and NOSIT and, is it Monomoy?
Could be.
So there are multiple districts, and so if they decide, if this group comes in, they want to give that opportunity to every district on the Cape potentially that's in the collaborative. So I think that would be a good thing to take advantage of as we're considering this. And I think that's all
I
I
think
have.
who's ever been at the collaborative the longest with their bus routes should have first preference. The MIT
It should be free
Yeah.
for the.
Well, I think
Oh, yes.
that would be my request, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, so just to recap, Nicole, you're looking for a survey on the impact, information in regard to before and after school care, and also look at the bus routes for efficiencies. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I reserve the right to add something else later as it occurs to me.
Noted.
Now the meeting.
Okay.
We'll never know when it's coming.
What about you, Jeff?
My only comment, I have just two real quick ones, is that you kind of threw me for a loop this year because you almost had me sold on the previous ones. And, you know, what we did is we went down that rabbit hole, worried about the before school care and the after school care, and realized that for what it's worth, and this is not a generalized egotistical comment, is that the block of time that school settles at, no matter what time it is, everything around it will adjust. And we realize that. And so I'm very, you know, I know we need to get information about after school care now. It's full now, right? The chances are it's going to be full if we move the times later, or full if we move the times earlier. There may be, of course, a different number of people that need to get it, so I understand that. I don't think we need to go down that hole again, because we twisted our heads off trying to figure out a way to basically make this. We were managing change for the whole town and every family in Mashpee based on the school start times. I'm not saying that we need to be dismissive of that fact, that it's going to impact people, and we can try to find ways to impact it. But I'm sorry, to address it. That's my only caution. But yeah, you almost had me on this, and then you turn around at the next year and brought a completely different proposal out. So my only question, is very general, is that I would just like to make sure that we are making a decision, we're not just going 180 degrees out to make a new proposal, but that we're actually selecting and, you know, fighting for the choice that makes sense for the school. So that's that.
I just want to comment in terms of the way I think about the Mashpee Rec aftercare is with an earlier start for elementary, the before school, where they basically cover for an hour, something budgetary-wise that could be transferred to extra people in the afternoon, because they may not need, the earliest people dropped off in the morning are 7, and they are there from 7 to 8 till they go to either this school or that school. So, you know, those kids would probably be picked up on a bus, potentially 10 of 7 for some of those kids. So maybe the before school piece isn't something that Mary's program, Bradbury's program would need, maybe, so staffing wise should be able to, I don't know.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I see what you're
We
saying.
wouldn't necessarily need the morning piece.
Yeah.
This is if you do your new proposal.
That's correct.
Yeah. But to Jeff's point, why did you change the proposal?
I think a lot of it was based on, so there's negatives on both sides. The parents who spoke out against, and they'll still probably speak out against the 8:30 middle high school, had to do revolved around sports. And the concern about leaving class early, now that we're starting later, to get someplace. Although I think eventually you'll see some of those in our league, switching times. And then there was a general feel that, you know, the younger kids are up earlier and ready to go. But there's neighboring towns that have the 9 o'clock start time for elementary. But it just felt it was doable to flip the other way. But there wasn't based on any scientific anything. It was keeping, the main goal is the 8:30 high school. That stayed consistent, so we're flipping around the others.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I guess the people who had issue with that 8:30 start time, they're not gonna change.
They're not gonna change, and we'll have, you know, so it does look like, okay, so, and like you say, they could have manipulated what the final decision was by having it seem overwhelming that 200 children would need before-school care, which we didn't want to have a financial impact on our families because of the change. And this will have some issues as well, so I think it's worth making sure everyone is fully aware that we're looking at this again, because no offense to the public out there, I really don't know that they have keyed into the few meetings that we've talked about it. We haven't put anything out there yet, so we can have a cover piece that goes with that survey, a little intro to make sure that they notice that what we're doing, and I want to have, like you said, the questioning and opportunities for a little bit of a narrative input for families to
Yeah, I think,
share their
I think that sort of helps me articulate better what I would need to be able to vote on this. I would need a rationale for the proposal we're making.
Mhm.
So we know why we want to move the high school start times, but whether the elementaries go at 9 or whether they go at 7:30, I want to know why we're recommending one versus the other.
Mhm.
And then I will vote on it.
So maybe tomorrow when we're looking at potential survey questions, maybe, this is what I do feel is probably better, but maybe we should still have the other option out there as we start to sort of gather some information.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 2020. Lots of families who are going to be graduated by then may not even be involved. Well, we don't know. So.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, even with the current, like Jeff had noted, a little bit, and he did note this, by the way, that he, with the current after-school programs being full, like Nicole said, right now, there are inconveniences for families. There are always going to be inconsistencies and inconveniences for families. So, to avoid doing any kind of change based on that, would be unfortunate and a disservice to, the students that, with the research that we've done, to do the right thing on them. Because you always hear that same thing out of everybody is, it's always been that way. So if there's, if it's not good for somebody right now, well, it's always been that way, they just have to deal with it. I've never liked that. Yeah, status quo, exactly. I've never liked that.
Status quo is the serial killer of
So,
innovation.
taking a different approach on this, looking at it more like how we're gonna do it rather than if we're gonna do it. At least from your perspective, because this is your recommendation, I think would make for a much better viewpoint, so.
All right. And obviously, if you do have additional questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to bring those to the superintendent so that we can make sure that everyone has as much information as possible in order to get to a point so that we can make a decision one way or the other in regard to this, so it's not continuing to languish. So with that being said, if we look at, ideally, I would like to bring this to a vote by the committee before we have potentially new members, and then have to kind of restart this discussion over again. And I believe that gives us May 9th as the last, I believe it's the last meeting that we have in this current configuration.
I would really prefer to do the hearing and vote a little earlier than that.
Wow, that's the last date.
Okay.
So backing up from that date, and also realizing that some of these things like getting a survey put together, getting it out, getting results, getting it analyzed will take time. Our next, in April, We have Wednesday, the 25th would be a regularly scheduled meeting. Prior to that, April 4th would be a regularly scheduled meeting. Or if we feel that we are prepared, at least for a public hearing, March 21st. My guess is probably the soonest, but I'll leave it up to the committee if they feel that we could be prepared sooner than that for a public hearing. After that, March 7th, or prior to that, March 7th, is the next scheduled meeting. February, we only have one meeting that's currently scheduled, which is on the 7th. So, entertaining thoughts?
I'm good with anything except for February.
Yeah, I think February's.
And I'd rather have it after April break than before, if we're gonna do it in April.
Before April?
The vote or the hearing?
The vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fourth.
Just so I'm in a really good mood.
How's April 4th sound to you, Nicole?
Well, I don't know if we can get all of that done in that tight of a window, but if you want to stick something on the calendar, I really don't, I personally don't buy this thing that we have to do it before the election because of seats, butts and seats might change. I don't think that should influence our decision as to when to take the vote. It seems kind of strange.
Well, every month that goes by also then decreases the window of notification for people.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you want to put April 25th, and if we can get everything done, then great.
I mean, we have, what, how many, well, we got 72 hours before the meeting to change it, so.
Yeah,
It's-
we have to have I think we need to have a target.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine. We can work back from that. That will help maybe get us more aggressive on
It's a milestone.
the other stuff, yeah.
So, sounds like April 25th for a public hearing, and potentially a vote on the same night, or do you want to have the vote the following meeting?
Oh, I thought the public meeting was going to be.
I would say before,
that.
right?
Yeah, not
So-
the same night. I thought it was going to be before, like
You-
on the 4th or the,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
why
we
I'm
can do the
asking,
fourth.
So you're
I
saying
just
the
went,
vote on the 25th?
Yeah.
Fourth and the
But-
25th.
okay. So our target will be to have a public hearing on school start time on April 4th, with a formal vote scheduled for April 25th. And the public hearing will start at 6:30 on April 4th. So we'll start it as early as we can. Does that work for everybody?
So, as of right this very second, yes.
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 Clearly, things are subject to change.
Yeah, exactly.
But we
So,
we now have a target.
since you're looking at the dates, when are our
Yes.
meetings in May?
So, May 9th and May 23rd.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
Mhm.
So we will shoot for those target dates. All right, thank you. Do we have any committee reports?
Not, well, with the policy committee met with, and we're doing the review of the policy manual, and we got through sections A and B, and we're planning to update you guys at the next non-finance meeting.
Okay, so the next,
on
so
that.
on the 7th of February. Okay, we'll make sure that that's on the agenda then. Okay. Any other committee reports?
Just to piggyback off of that, when we realign in May,
Yes.
if anybody else wants to be on that, you're missing all kinds of fun. I actually feel bad with all the fun that.
Oh.
Feel bad that you're stealing all the
You know
best.
what I love about
Exactly.
is the free dinners and
That's right.
the dessert.
That was
especially
Amazing. So I'm just gonna throw that out there for May.
And that stipend of $0.00.
Just saying, if you want, free meal, you should consider it.
That's all. I have.
It matches.
All right.
Right.
Is there any other items that need to be brought forth to the committee? Otherwise,
May I have 1 minute?
that's what I'm asking.
I would like
Love
that,
to
I'm actually excited, because I would like to, recommend that we add an agenda item to have a Robert Rules of Order of the night, right? That we can go through it.
Oh.
So, I just want to, if I may, I'm just going to read something real
You know,
quickly.
this might reduce your standing in the town.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay.
I just want to say, we're from like 1 to 0. Yeah. I just wanted to read real quick, the fix the time to which to adjourn.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
My favorite.
Yeah. And I quote, "The object of this motion to fix the time to which to adjourn, also referred to as the motion to fix the time for the adjourning of an adjourned meeting, is to set the time and sometimes the place for another meeting to continue business of the session with no effect on when the present meeting will adjourn." Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for sharing that tidbit. Thank you.
Huh.
I will tell the rest of the committee that has been shared with Mr. Smith. And he does agree that it has that meaning.
Oh, good. I'm glad we cleared that up.
So we have cleared that up. All right.
Oh, excuse me, I just had a liaison thing, I apologize. I was waiting for the liaison reports, is that with the committees too?
That's part of committees.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Go for
the
it.
Division 7 meeting, not for the legislative breakfast, which you guys just got a note about, that's happening on February 9th at the Collaborative. They're saying that the Division 7 meeting is gonna happen sometime in February, also at the Collaborative. And one of the topics is gonna be school choice. But we don't have a date for it yet, but I just thought I would
Okay.
give you guys a heads up because I know we're all kind of keenly interested in that right now. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Cool.
If you would let the committee know when you find out what that date is.
Yeah.
So everyone's aware, I'd appreciate it. All right. If there are no other matters to be brought forth to the committee, we have added to the agenda an executive session. Do I need to repeat it, I guess?
I can write it.
Okay, so, do I have a motion to move into executive session for the reasons which were stated previously?
So moved.
It's added not
We
to
will-
return to public.
Right, from which
That
we
was
will not
stated in
adjourn.
the previous.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Nicole and a second by Jeff. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes.
I thought you-
So, we are